What's happening? Where are we?
I have no fucking idea!
Welcome back to Q Dads, it's me Ste, and what an episode. What the hell have I just watched, because this was phenomenal. So much information around the supposed story of Kier and Eagan. But not only that, yes, we were proven right that this was in fact Helena. And not only was it Helena, but she also managed to do what Helly couldn't and sleep with Mark, and also permanently lose one of the members of MDR. So this changes the dynamics of all future episodes in such a fantastic way. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, as it really does help us to grow. And let's dive deep into this episode, starting with that ending, and of course where Irving B will be like he never existed. So yes, as a lot of us predicted, and when I say that, there was some good debate over whether this was Helly or Helena the whole time. But in fact, it turned out it was Helena. But I do have to admit, she played it cool all the way up to the last moment, where she just called out to Seth, who shut down the Glasgow block. This of course opens up the doors and allows Helly to actually come back in. For me, it opens up a couple of questions. So, we obviously know that Helly has been brought back already because she wasn't mid-conversation. She wasn't as confused as the others, which means they had brought her back already, and we've alluded to this in previous episodes. Potentially, they've had an ongoing conversation. And by that, I mean Helly and Helena. Which means, although Helly has come back, was she actually working with Helena? Or was she just completely an innocent bystander? And I love the fact that Irving was the one who caught onto all of this, and it all stemmed around that bloody night gardener, which sounds like a Netflix series in itself. But then of course, the implications of Irving doing what he did means that he is now permanently dismissed from the severed floor, never to return. Now, does this mean we'll be following the journey of the life of Irving's outie? Or actually will they break the rules and allow him back somehow? Or, much like how we and others have alluded to, will Irving now be wiped? We've speculated many times that he might be an older employee who's been reused lots. And the fact that he knew about the export door, for all we know, this isn't the first time Irv has committed an act like this, each time getting wiped, but doing it over and over, maybe alluding to something that the outie experiences. Either way, the big issue here is that other than Dylan, he never told anyone else about the door, and even Dylan isn't aware of the conversation he had with Felicia. Will Dylan want to discuss this information with Mark, as it's clear Lumen has Dylan by the balls now, showing him glimpses of his family? Or will Felicia be the one to come looking for Irv and ultimately tell Mark? With Irv now supposedly gone, is this now a chance for Mark, Helly and Dylan to get a new agenda and not only push on for the search for Gemma, but also a way to bring back Irving B? Will they even continue the macro data refinement without him? Now, we've got a lot of good questions, but one thing I am glad about is that they actually wrapped up Helly and the Helena storyline in this episode and didn't drag it on. I thought that was a really good touch. Now, of course, we'll talk about the rest of the episode, and firstly, with Irving's dreamlike experience, because we've got to remember, is this actually the first time that the 4 innies, well, 3 innies, have actually slept? And that sounds like a strange concept, but usually they've finished during the day, so unless they've had a nap, they've not really experienced sleep before. So it's interesting that Irving does then have a dream, and a dream about what he's been seeing, the office and the forest, which are one of the only experiences that he's actually had outside of the office, which makes sense while you transport the office to an outdoor world. And of course, yes, he dreamt of Woe, the half-sized bride who looked creepy as hell, I will admit, but on the screen he was actually working on a different project, which wasn't Cold Harbour, but was actually Montauk. So this makes us question that not all of them are working on Cold Harbour. So Mark could be working on Gemma's memories and kind of re-establishing those, whereas Irving could be working on someone else's, and each of the innies actually have a different project they work towards, all for a kind of personal gain. Again, we are still unsure what they are working towards. Now, I love how this kind of episode first introduced all the information right at the start, and actually we were in the Kier Eagan National Forest, and all the information relating to him was forbidden on the severed floor. This makes me question the accuracy of it and how true it actually was, because as we all know, that Helena was actually in on the inside, it makes us think that the story wasn't true, because when she first heard of it off Milchek, she then ended up laughing and making a joke of it. And this is because, as an Eagan, she probably does know the full history. So she knew that this was a fabricated story, and as a result, couldn't control her laughter. And to be honest, the line "he spilled his lineage all over the floor" did get a chuckle out of me too. That's how it came across to me. But Ben did want to say he doesn't fully believe that Kier Eagan had a twin. He thinks that it was a fabricated story. He said, yeah, let's just say for me, it wasn't believable unless you go down the route that MDR and other departments are actually working towards constructing memories. Then, is that what Kier Eagan was trying to do? Rebuild his brother, and the four tempers relate to his own emotions, but also the building blocks to core memory? Or could Dieter Eagan actually have been real, and perhaps died earlier than expected, say as a baby? We keep clearly getting images of babies throughout the opening. Could this lead back to Dieter? My wife also raised a good point last week that goat's milk back in the day was used in place of breast milk if a woman wasn't able to feed her baby. So could this all arc back to Lumen growing humans, needing the goats for milk? And could Miss Huang actually have been one of those humans they grew? Probably not, but we do still see a lot of references to babies, even in season 1 with Mark's sister's baby and Mrs. Selvig's hospital bracelet that read Charlotte, which we have to assume was a child she lost. So this does all make me think that Kier lost his twin as a baby, and this all ties back into current Lumen and rebuilding the mind. Now, another thing I do want to point out, actually, is the 4 replicas that kind of pointed them on their journey along their path. Was this something that had to do with a clone or a robot, or an illusion, so to speak, like a holograph? Because we never actually got too close to find out. But it was interesting to see that they did this and had versions of themselves. I presume these were kind of like animatronics, similar to the ones we saw in the Library of Kier, where we had all the versions of the previous Eagans, as they were close looking but not perfect. And also, I do want to briefly touch on before we end the fact that yes, we have saw Helena on the inside posing as an innie, and it just makes me think of that great theory that's floating around there about Rickon, that actually he's severed but on the outside, so kind of like what Helena has been doing. And if he was on the inside, he would have been called Rick N, not Rickon. And this always blows my mind all the time, and I still think it's pretty concrete and probably plausible after we've seen Helena do what she's just done. Now, just before I end, I do need to question if this whole episode was in Mark's head. It doesn't seem like it, but the last time we saw Mark, he was being reintegrated. What has happened to that? The only sign we got in this episode that reintegration might have happened is when Mark saw Gemma and he was in bed with Helena. Regardless of that, what happened to reintegration? Surely Mark would have started suffering by now. I mean, maybe this Mark we're seeing now is the combined memories and thoughts of both. I just think if that was the case, he might not have slept with Helena. And speaking of Helena, just one last thing, I still don't get why she wanted to sleep with Mark. Could it be that Gemma is alive and well, and that Helena knows her and wanted to hurt her in some way? Or is it more likely, as I suspected before, Helena was jealous of Helly because Helena had never really experienced love, not even familiar love, as clearly her father is a very cold man. Anyway guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this is the last we will see of Irv? Is Helly about to spill all the information on Helena? And finally, what happened to Mark's reintegration? Now, also, please do refrain from spilling your lineage all over the floor. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe as it really helps the channel to grow. And as always, we'll catch you next time with something new.